I'm definitely picture problem. That's why I'm trying to put it in regulars. So I notice something.
You may have to mute your computer right at the beginning
It is already.
and unmute it. You're ready to play your audio.
Okay.
It may start trying to.
Okay.
Oh, the one. He's explaining.
Oh, look who's here.
Victor.
Yeah, you could.
I know I closed it.
Oh.
Oh, no, go and start. Did you read your
Ooh, you have to.
asking.
Can you run
Oh, come on.
to the 15?
It's a good way to start. PowerPoint crashing.
I know.
So I use 25 accounts of different this one.
No, we said you're gonna,
That's right.
but it's different too.
She's using the same time. That's it. Because then we don't have to worry about this fifth graders about their road schools. We never have to You just have to have accounts year round.
Yeah, that'll work.
Well, with tax month. Because it is not choice. I couldn't put the lid on. And I thought when I just barely pushed it.
Yeah. Me too.
Oh, no. There was some shopping. It just went a lot. Oh, my God. Yeah. How do you go?
Solid start.
Yeah, you move up to the other.
Yes. Hey. The chirping?
Is the bacon good today?
And you just put some.
It's a lot of chirp.
You know, they should start one of the general sessions with a video of how they make the bacon.
A video on how to make the video?
Of how they make the bacon.
Oh, it's probably a trade secret. Is it out already?
They just put some out.
They just
It's
put them
fresh.
out. Want them?
You should get
Or go
some.
get
Your
them.
bacon, you gave me yesterday. It'll be gone.
Yeah, I know. I'm okay.
Telling you, the bacon is why we come.
You want me to go get you some? Yes or no? Okay.
No, I did, thank you. Oh, you're gonna go get
He's gonna be for anyway.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll wait until the bacon comes back and then we'll get started.
We know what's important.
Yeah.
What is bacon?
Food is always more important.
Where's the bacon? From the planners. Told you,
I didn't even, I told you too much.
all of them. You have no idea what they do. Okay.
I'm not gonna teach them.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say Kevin, that's next.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it with me and only for seminars, good, you get.
That's your feedback at the end.
There we go.
One bacon, two bacon feedback.
Ready?
Reach out.
Yeah,
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Minecraft and robotics teaching and reviewing content in our technological world. We've got kind of a mix of different techniques we use in our lessons, starting with Minecraft and using some of the Dash. And so we're going to tell you kind of about our journey from our start. It's kind of where we are now and where we're looking forward to going later. Here's our contact info. This is Rachel Merlot. She thinks she's the brains.
I am.
I'm Kevin Weaver. And I have it at the end too, but if you want a copy of some of the worlds that we used in our lessons, you can find them at tinyurl.com, DCES worlds. And I have a first grade Jamestown map. I have a couple other fourth grade Jamestown maps. And I have a solar system world that I'm in draft that I'm working on. And the Jamestown worlds actually were made by another member of our Prince William County family, John Painter. You guys know him. And the solar system map started out with a seed I found on Minecraft World, Minecraft.net, I think it was. So I got to give credit for that one too. But the other ones, the Yorktown and Civil War world are there. I built from scratch. So those are.
I helped. Just want to make that point. I helped.
So, but if you want to use them, feel free to. I just wanted to give credit to who started some of those worlds for us.
So when we got together, we started our discussion about what are the challenges that we are facing. And I am coming from this as a fourth grade teacher perspective. So I'm coming from it as the classroom teacher perspective. And I mean, as a fourth grade teacher teaching Virginia studies, my kids have to engage with very content heavy lessons, especially lots of vocab, very deep ideas, and it just covers a huge breadth. And at the same time, I've got different levels of kids in my class. I've got lots of ESOL kids, I've got some kids who are in Signet, so lots of different levels of kids in my class. And one of the things that we see is that in Virginia studies especially, there's a lot of low content retainment, especially because it is so much memorize this, memorize this, memorize this. In addition, the kids have trouble forming connections between what happened 400 years ago and what's going on today. So again, they're not retaining this material, and they as an admin, want them to retain material so that they can pass SOLs, but that's not critical thinking. So how do we balance fact retainment and critical thinking? And then again, that comes into admin support. They want the kids to pass the SOL, and that is a focus on basic fact retention. But as we as good teachers and educators know, there is more to learning than just remembering facts. So how do we get admin on board for something that looks different and does more than just get them to pass the test?
And is loud and is messy and is sometimes looking disorganized. So the lack of admin support, changing policies. At one point, we're looking at doing almost a flipped method where they did some of this work at home and came in, and then that had to change. So we're looking at it from a lens of how do we get this to work? How, from the content perspective, and from my side of the fence on the coaching perspective, we need to have an adventurous spirit, a teacher that I can actually get to do it. a risk taker, someone that's going to be willing to try and go and doing something wild and crazy to try and change what we do in a normal day. Okay, so we wanted to start off with how would you use Minecraft in your classroom before we start talking about what we did. Okay, so this is a Padlet. So the password is Visty. You can use the link. The QR code should work. Just take a couple of seconds to kind of say what you would use it for. Everybody get it?
I like to play too. It's a good answer.
Okay, so someone's never used it before. Critical thinking, geometry, coding. Kids love it, absolutely. Okay. Retelling stories. There's 1.5 million ways to do retelling stories. Creativity. Awesome, those are really good ones. So Minecraft is a sandbox. You can do pretty much anything you want in it. You can go wild and crazy, have no rules. You can have restrictive rules. You can have a starting point. You can have everyone together. You can have pods of players. You can have all players separate. So there's lots of different ways it can be used. And these are really good. We're gonna save these. Okay. All right. Okay. So why we used Minecraft?
It was fun and exciting. The kids were already playing it. They already loved it. They're already talking about it. It's not something that we have to sell a whole lot of them on or explain to them how to play, because most of them already know how to do it.
Right. And for us at least, and this is a subjective statement, but it was not a huge learning curve for us because we were able to pick it up kind of on the spot and go with it. There's a few things we learned. Neither of us actually play Minecraft to play it, but I learned how to build in it. I learned how to do the teacher tools in it. I learned how to construct scenarios to make what I wanted to happen. And we kind of let the kids fill in the gaps. So, and she knew content, so she was able to add in content in ways that we think at least made it meaningful for the students to visit. We had available support in-house. So we had, I'm the instructional technology coach, so I was there. I was able to lend support and really be available to both the teacher and the kids. We do have school division support for Minecraft. We're a Office 365 school division. We've had Minecraft cohorts. We've had lots of different programs that try to train us how to do it. And there's several of us in the district that just really use Minecraft on a regular basis. So it was really kind of an easy way for us to get in.
Minecraft, from my perspective, it allows for that deeper dive into content, higher level critical thinking skills, planning, forethought, as well as teamwork and communication. So it's kind of like this big basket of all of the things that we want all at the same time. And it's kind of just waiting for us to all jump into together.
It allows us to touch those 21st century VISTI and ISTE standards that we want to grab a hold of. We can use buzzwords when we're explaining it to our administration. All these SAMR steps we can take, but really it's fun to use and it's a sandbox that we can play in. So it's just a really good example place. Okay, so we started by me just grabbing the kids, say, hey, come in, let's go play Minecraft. So as they go to lunch, they would have their lunch with me and play Minecraft. They would teach me kind of how they're playing and what they're looking for. I know when your session, you're talking about having the NPCs right there when you start. We saw that that's what was really important. So we tried to incorporate a lot of the things that I learned from just playing Minecraft with them during their lunch breaks. Okay, and then we started into
simulations. So Kevin went around and said, "Dear teachers, please do Minecraft with me." And
Kind of thing.
yeah, just a little bit. And so the first thing we jumped into was simulations. Let's simulate Jamestown. Let's simulate the hardships in Jamestown. And that's probably one of the most fun things that we do all year with the kids, because we simulate the hardships. We use poisoned potatoes to make them sick. We use,
Starve them to death.
yes,
Nauseous.
but the other side of that is that we bring in the primary sources. Here are the people who came on the first ship. Here are how many people did what. So there are only 2 of you who are allowed to build at a time. Only 2 of you can build the fort. Only 1 of you can farm. You have to feed everybody. Only 1 of you can be a doctor. Everybody else, you're looking for gold and silver. And we see how successful they are while they are facing these hardships.
Or how unsuccessful. Which is the point of that particular assignment, was to make them be unsuccessful, so that we can go back and we can teach the rest of the unit and then come back and see what had to be done to make it more successful later on. So it's a simulation into a creation.
And just from my perspective, I bring them back to the classroom afterwards and I say, "What's hard?" "Well, you kept starving us. We had no food." "Yeah, okay, what else?" "Well, we kept getting sick and there was nobody to take care of us." "Yeah, guess what? The settlers in Jamestown, they were starving. They didn't have food. They were sick." So we were able to make connections to something that used to be so far in the past that they couldn't even reckon with it.
And then we went on to scavenger hunts, and we used the book and quill for this. Kind of stumbled onto it as, oh crap, we forgot something, or something didn't work. I don't remember exactly what caused it, but we realized that the kids can use the camera tool and their portfolio. And then I took kind of like a study guide, and I typed it on 1 page into a book and quill. And then I made 1 page of the study guide, blank page, 1 page study guide, blank page. So you could add pictures or type their own content on the other page. And then I put it in a universal cloner box. And so everyone could take a book out of this chest in the cage.
Cage, yes. Keep
So
going.
in their starting cage. So they had this book and quill they had, and it was a study guide, and they had to use it in a scavenger hunt and go all over Yorktown and find out all the key pieces by talking to the NPCs or going to the third-party websites that were linked through the NPCs. And they had to answer all these questions. And then at the end, this was a learning opportunity for us. I had them publish the book and put it in another chest, and then I collected those and we reviewed them afterwards. Okay, so the first part of the scavenger hunt was great. The assessment tool didn't work so well. So learning opportunity for us. Okay. That's where we went our first year working on this, and then we started moving forward.
The pandemic hit,
Yeah.
so we had to adjust. So then we went back to simulations because the kids love them. It's fun. That was really, really exciting for them. This year, what we have been very heavily focused on is using Minecraft as a review tool. So the kids have been making museums, and we have been taking the essential questions or the standards from each unit, and each group is being given a topic. Using your notes and extra research, create a museum room so that the rest of the class can review this particular subject as they take a tour through the museum. So they get a little bit of time to review, to research, to put that together, they build, and then the end is everybody visit the museum, go visit all of the other rooms in the museum.
So a lot of our museums we host as a class. So I have like one world for the whole class, and we all come into it, and they actually build out scenes, or they take the boards and the slates. I want them to do science. I don't like science. I don't like them at all. They're hard to read and you can't fix mistakes. So we use slates and boards and banners, poster, the narrow one, posters, and we actually put information and content around their specific area. We do have a little bit of bleed over and occasional knockdown walls, but because we're in the same world, we can actually fix that as the operators. So we go through and we kind of fix the holes in the floors and the walls as needed. and they have to actually show that they did some outside research. So we do all the stuff from the content that they've covered in class, and then we have them go out and find extra pieces that they just think is interesting about the content. And then they do a museum walk.
So
And
I like to look at it as a virtual jigsaw activity.
And then we had them reflect on the whole museum. We used Flipgrid this year, where they actually go through after they've toured everyone's exhibits, and they talk about a piece of each exhibit that kind of stood out for them to try and get some sort of whole unit study in. And that carried us further, and we continued our scavenger hunts and our virtual field trips. We did Yorktown, I've mentioned. I also built a Civil War world where we tour all the locations that are key to that unit.
Hold on a second. Who was the builder yesterday?
Yeah, I did one.
Riley? Okay, our builder is here. Okay. And who was the person who was gathering wood? Amy. Okay. So miners, raise your hand. Okay. I need Chris. You're gonna join Riley and be a builder today. I need Christian and Madison. So just for sake of time, this is day 2 of the Jamestown simulation. They spent the first day being unsuccessful because the majority of them are looking for gold and silver, which, as any Minecraft will tell you, there is no gold in Minecraft. So, very difficult. And now we have gone back, we've looked at the second passenger manifest. We've looked at, on the second ship, there were more of these jobs, these jobs, these jobs. So let's reassign. If you were yesterday looking for gold and silver, today you are doing this. To create a much more effective community.
And one thing we did different this year than we've done in the previous couple of years is we actually built like Jamestown before the walls for them this year, whereas in the past we've had them do that. And part of their failing section is they're trying to build the walls too. So we built the walls, and they just had to fill in the insides, build the different buildings. So it took a little bit of the strain of them just getting the check the box stuff off. So of course, we faced a lot of challenges. Things didn't work, or we had admin that was like, yeah, that sounds great. 5 minutes later, it sounds horrible to do that. So changing of minds, changing of attitudes. We had students, we still have this even 2 years into the pandemic, students getting logged in and accessing their own accounts. We have keeping students in the right locations, which is actually a lot of the reason we use one world per class. So I can just TP and I can bring them back. Okay, so I can manage them a little bit. Time, it always takes 2, 3 times longer than you wanted or expected initially. Assessing work, the lost artifacts, the book and quills that kept disappearing as they were turning them in. I actually had to send that to Minecraft to see if they could recover the files. Work is lost. Giving immediate feedback, getting distracted and off task, and having students doing what is being asked. Have we solved all of them? No. But I think we've made progress on touching each piece of this to make it so that we can have a more efficient time when we're in the computer. But then, of course,
that happens when I'm not in the room.
So kids not doing what they're supposed to be doing, kids getting off task. However, he did figure out how to use fill XYZ coordinates. So he figured out what Y was.
We always find the positive and use it as a learning experience.
That's right. Okay. So what we learned.
This is something that requires a sense of humor. You have to be able to laugh at the crazy things that happen because crazy things do happen. And you have to be patient. It is going to take time. It's going to take establishment of routine and expectations for it to turn out the way you want it to.
Okay. I think one of the biggest things we learned is the kids need plan time. So just like we need plan time to set up the opportunities for them to learn, they need plan time before they get into Minecraft. So they need to have an idea of what they need to do and what's expected of them, and then kind of how they can do that before they even touch the computer.
So at this point, we don't even go to the computer lab until at least 1 day of plan time, probably more like 2. So
And we use this as a way to extend the content. We try to establish routine, like back to the login issues that we had. You guys might want to close your ears. So before they come into the lab, I will oftentimes have it logged into our generic SOL login. So they're either only logging into Minecraft. So it's just a little bit faster for us. We don't have to wait for the startup. So we can sit right down, we can get started, and we can give our instruction. Just make it a routine to get them in as fast as possible.
And then use the opportunities that come up
Teachable
even if
moments.
you didn't plan them. And a perfect example are these selfies that the kids took in the Revolutionary War video to create a scrapbook. These were kids who finished early. And we said, okay, we'll go take selfies with all of the important people and put a caption on it. And honestly, this was a better learning experience for them than the scavenger hunt part. This is what they took away this is what they walked away with and said, yeah, I found George Washington and we were hanging out. And so this was one of those things that we learned by accident, but it's something that we have held on to.
It's really been kind of the more powerful outcome, or their assessment piece to actually show that they found this person. And then they put their caption, so they're practicing all their other skills and they're rehearsing the content. So that was our experience with Minecraft. But we don't only use Minecraft. Like I said at the beginning, we use Dash. We've got other things we're working on now. So we try to combine it and do different things for different units. So we use Minecraft for specific lessons that we think lend themselves really well to the Minecraft world. Other lessons, either what we've tried in the past hasn't worked, or we found something that we thought was better, or a combination of the two, as we've done for Civil War last year, as we combine the two. So we also incorporate our Dash robots. We got lots of these all over the place. And we try to make it so the kids can actually problem solve, they can practice their patience, they can develop persistence.
Us too.
Sometimes more us than them.
Yep.
So it's exciting for the kids and for us. Sometimes it's frustrating and annoying, just like Minecraft and the cows and the sheep making noises when you don't expect them to during lessons. And sometimes Dash will dance and spin and say stuff when you don't want it to. I use it, a lot of my focus is looking at coding and programming and using algorithms and things like that. So I get to grab the piece that I think is going to strengthen their computer science skills, and I partner with the classroom teacher to get the content skills. So we kind of blend in these things as much as we can. And we've used it for movement, for drawing skills, and then the content. So it's lots of different things. Yeah.
Alexandria is right here. The river is right here. So if it goes right here, it's basically it's still in yeah, so, right. So we're gonna go on to this is Dale City. We're gonna put we have to go back. We have to go back there. This is Dale City. We have to go Alex. Did it already go to we didn't go because the parents are massive and then right. Should it go to Dale City first or Alexandria? Alexandria. No, but then it's gonna pass.
You'll see more from that particular student that you can hear a little later on. He's pretty animated.
And I understand it was hard to hear. They were talking about the location of the rivers and Dale City in relation to where the rivers are. And I have to tell you, in doing Virginia studies for several years now, I have never heard kids talk so excitedly about where the rivers are located. So like that moment was a huge win for Virginia geography.
So what we did in this particular lesson is I took the map of Virginia, put it on a projector, and I drew it on the paper, the big sheets of paper, the rolls of paper, tape them together. So it's a big outline of Virginia, and then they're doing an actual regions of Virginia adventure. So they're writing a script, visiting all the key places in the specific regions. They're programming Dash to navigate through those regions. And we're syncing it up together. And then I'm actually recording a video of Dash doing its program and their spoken audio and putting it on top of each other. So we actually have like a narrated adventure across the regions of Virginia. And we do this actually at lunchtime and recess time, that they voluntarily want to do this with us instead of going out for recess or eating in the cafeteria.
So how did we start? Kevin started with lunch bunches. Again, it all comes down to generating the interest when the kids are actually truly interested. Then we both went to PD offered by Wonder Workshop. And that's what got me excited about the Dash robots. I had never had anything to do with them before.
I signed up for the Wonder Workshop class, made it through 2 lessons, and then forgot to sign back in for the rest. But
okay, well, I got excited about Dash from Wonder Workshop. And then we started to brainstorm. How can we use this? How can we embed it within the instruction? And then COVID hit. Well, actually, COVID hit when the Wonder Workshop PD was going on, but and it became very clear very quickly that Minecraft wasn't going to work with in-person and virtual kids.
the way we were doing it.
The way we were doing it, because they could not all be in the same world at the same time. So how do we make this work now that we've got some kids here and some kids at home? So it became the bridge that connected a project that both sets of students were doing. They were both doing timelines of important events in the Civil War. And our kids in the building were doing a timeline with Dash, and our kids at home were doing timelines in Minecraft.
So the kids at home, they actually built out the entire timeline of the whole year, or just the Civil War, right?
And all of the important events.
So all the important events of the Civil War, they did that independently in Minecraft at home. The kids that were in the building, we had an A day, B day, or however it was, it rotated. So we had some working on the PowerPoint with information and data. We had some that were building like scenes, dioramas, and things out of cardboard and scrap, and then programming the robot. So we had the robot actually going to this place on the timeline, and then the PowerPoint that the students wrote at home would have the information, and the kids in the classroom would speak to it. And then the robot would do an animation or something, or spin, and then go to the next point on the timeline. And so it became kind of a interactive function through the kids that were at home and in school, back and forth, because they were teamed up.
Which required a massive amount of teamwork and communication, because those kids were talking to each other over Zoom. They were coming in and picking up where the other kid left off the day before. So the teamwork skills and communication were almost mind-boggling, what these kids were able to accomplish.
It was really cool to see. We still have some of the artifacts in the building, kind of on our shelves, tucked behind all the other things we got for COVID materials. But we've tried to hold on to them because the kids did a really awesome job on it. Did I break it? I think I broke it. No, there it is. Okay. So we're not going to play the video right now, but this was an example of what the robot did. It would travel to the place and it would speak to the content. Then it would rotate and go to the next one. If you desperately want to see it, you can see it on you can download the PowerPoint.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure,
So
absolutely.
when you said it speaks to the content, the kids are recording voice?
So yes. So one of the greatest things and one of the biggest constraints to Dash is the audio piece. So we can record 10 5-second sound bites.
So what we said to the kids was, you've got all of this information. You have to pick the most important parts, the things that you thought were the most interesting, and that's what the robot said, and that is it. Everything else has to go in your PowerPoint. So it was also really great for picking out the most important information and summarizing.
Yeah, they had to shorten it down. What they wanted to say was this big, and they had to trim it down to a really short piece of time. Which is cool in itself, but still, we want more audio time. Here's more of the kids working on their map. So with Dash, we have a different set of problems that we have to look at than we do with Minecraft. You can see my room in the previous video, and there's stuff everywhere.
That's why you always use somebody else's room.
So when we started to come back to in-person, all the TVs we had in all the rooms for virtual instruction ended up in my space. So I tried to take them and I put them in different places at the end of the tables for kind of a collaborative session or collaborative group sessions. But there was just a ton of stuff. So we had constant issue with organization, trying to find pieces. So things didn't always end up charged. So robots were all over the place. Kids often assigned the wrong robot. So each robot has a name. I've named them Star Wars themes or Destiny themes or video game themes, just to kind of make it silly for the kids. But a lot of times they connect to the wrong ones. And so that was a learning curve we had to figure out and a routine we had to establish. We had a lot of issue with losing programs. So we had to share iPads. We have certain students that refuse to try and solve a problem on their own. So solving problems independently definitely was an issue that we had to look at. There's the 5-second time limit in Blockly. And student teachers not having a clear picture on what they're doing, what are the expected outcomes. We were struggling with learning what we wanted them to do, so they struggled with giving us what we wanted them to give us. And angry custodians. Which is why, as Rachel said, do it in somebody else's room. So it oftentimes falls in my messy room anyway. And it's always harder than you think it's going to be. But then it's usually more rewarding as you expect to. So lots of issues we had to look at. And we had to take each one piece by piece, try and solve it as many ways or different ways as we could. And we figured out, I took one of the extra laptop carts, and now that became a dash charging cart. So I got iPads on top, dashes on the bottom. We were finally able to establish routine, so the kids knew what was expected. And that went with both doing the work and with coming in and getting started.
We went over that you have to practice first, and that starts with planning. So I began to develop graphic organizers the day beforehand that were very, very, very in-depth, so that every part of this was planned out before they touched any piece of technology. And you have to be flexible. It might not turn out how you think it's going to. It might not be what you think it's going to be. It might not work how you think it's going to work. But if you let it take its course, the majority of the time, it turns into something amazing.
Yeah, that's where we found the most impact was things that failed. All right, how do we fix it? How do we figure it out? Me being me, I was trying to figure out how we could roll that into debugging standards that we needed to look at. But a lot of it was kind of, all right, we screwed up pretty bad. How do we fix it? Is a lot of our students struggle with.
I started my trip from Alexander. I went down to the river. I crossed the fall line.
They either don't want to figure it out, or they can't figure it out, or it's a language barrier issue where they don't understand what the problem is to begin with. All right, so this, as I was saying earlier, the regions of Virginia. It's a real short video about the group that's finished the project. The other ones are still working on it. Their stories are pretty elaborate. But this is him programming the robot, the group programming the robot, and doing their audio portion to dictate the adventure.
The fall line had many waterfalls. The waterfalls made my trip harder to travel. I passed the waterfall. I was in coastal plains. Then I went to the Piedmont to go visit the rolling hills. After that, I went to the Blue Ridge Mountains to visit the all-rounded mountains. I went hiking. Then I went to the Valley and Ridge region. I visited the farms. Then I passed the Great Valley of Virginia. Then I saw only a little piece of the Appalachian Plateau in Virginia. Then I had so much fun.
So we were looking at them getting the content out, not specific details on their program. So a lot of the times it doesn't perfectly line up because they were getting lost in trying to make it perfect. And we really just wanted to see that they could tie the two pieces together. So it's kind of okay, let's get it finished. This is what you have is really good. Let's move forward. So that was a little bit of a struggle for us. It still is. So we still have two groups that are trying to get finished. Their stories are amazing. They're just a lot. 10 minutes worth of narration across the regions of Virginia. So those ones are proving a little more difficult, and we're learning a lot from them. Okay?
So how do you get started if you're interested? Well, Minecraft, anything where their learning can be designed and then constructed. Perfect. Dash gives you basic programming skills, sequencing, cause and effect, and planning and execution skills. Those are great places to start. So if you have a project that involves something like that, you might want to consider one of those tools.
From my side of the fence, I look at it like whatever we can do to get the kids to construct something. So they're building something that it enhances what they've learned, or they're building something that is related to what they've learned. Something where they're building something to try and form meaning. And a lot of what we found is building of relationships.
This is one of the biggest things that we've found that the kids have gotten out of it, and we've gotten out of it too. The kids learn leadership skills. Sometimes they have to take over and tell some of the other kids to stop and listen. And so some of them are learning how to do that. Friendships have been formed and have been deepened over a common project. And they're also learning how to work together, especially after this crazy couple of years where social emotional is a big problem. This has been a big help redeveloping working relationships. And then between students and teachers, students get to see a different side of us. And so we begin to establish trust of each other. They begin to trust us as more than just the person who stands up in the room and tells them all this stuff and gives them homework.
They get to see us without all the answers. Yes. They have an opportunity to actually teach us. We try to show it that you gotta figure it out. If you can't figure it out, we have a whole room of people you can talk to. We don't all know the answer, but together we can probably solve something.
And then teacher to teacher. We have to learn how to deal with our frustrations and do it together in a productive way. We
Or
have
just bribe each other.
or just bribe each other. And then teamwork and planning. I think that for Kevin, I'm going to speak for Kevin for a second.
So he says anything.
Teacher to teacher relationships. Bringing him into my planning, bringing him into my test reflections, really being able to sit down and talk about what really worked and what really didn't, and how can we change this in the future. This is not a one and done thing. What does the next unit look like? And then for me, I actually don't have anybody that I plan with for Virginia Studies. So Kevin is the only one who's really my sounding board. So being able to work together to plan, I think, has been very helpful for both of us.
Right. And to debrief and review and to, like we, in the sessions earlier today, we're watching the scores come in for the first students that are testing today on Virginia Studies. And we're talking about how we're going to reflect later in the week. So it's worked really well to create that kind of teacher-to-teacher relationship. But like I said, and mentioned this earlier, we use Dash, we use Minecraft, but we're also opening up to other hybrid projects, depending on what the content is. So my big push right now, which I've gotten really interested in, is trying to have the kids do like podcasting. So in Virginia Studies, the test they're taking right now, today, they're finished now, but they went through the unit. I gave them a template of a script, and they answered specific questions, and they had to figure out how to put it into words that were more communicative. So treat it like they're having a conversation, and then record it. We're using Anchor for them to record it, and then I'll be publishing it on the school Anchor account. Sorry, my thought just went out.
So for us, for me, looking at this, oh my gosh, Minecraft is so cool. Dash is so cool. Let's use this. I want to do it. But you have to pick the best tool for the job. Just because it's cool doesn't mean it's going to work. Just because the kids are excited doesn't mean they're going to learn anything. So you have to be very conscious of, is this actually the best tool for the job? Kevin and I recently have been having the discussion. He built this amazing Yorktown world in Minecraft. It's beautiful. Is it the best tool for the job? Does it actually accomplish what we want it to accomplish? And this is one of those situations where we have to say, no, it doesn't. So what can we do instead?
Right, and that might be Minecraft, different way, it might be a different tool, it might be something else. So it's just, we're trying to be open to it and figure out what's gonna work best for us, best for our kids, and best for the content. Okay, then we've also found that sometimes our instruction needs to improve. The ways we're giving the kids to prepare for these projects.
So I have been using Wixie nonstop this year. Wixie is my go-to. This is where all your information is. Here's your notes. Let's take it from your notes. Let's put it into Wixie. Wixie is what you're going to use to plan your project. So for me, Wixie is the go-to, but Seesaw is great. There are so many other tools out there. But what I've learned is that it really is a conjunction, not an either or. And graphic organizers. They need to be a lot more detailed than you originally think. Step by step by step by step.
And of course, when in doubt, there's tools that provide comic relief. So sometimes it's just, you have to chuckle. So this is actually the student that was talking in the first video.
He's describing the arrival of women to Jamestown. So that's what that was. Yes, that was him describing the arrival of women to Jamestown.
It's me seeing a student using the book and quill tool in Minecraft, but content.
That's hilarious.
Again, this is Rachel, I'm Kevin. If you want to contact us, there's our information. If you want to try out those worlds that I talked about, they're available for you on that link. Feel free to use them. Again, I didn't build all of them. I built a couple of them. 2 of them are from other people. I just want to make sure they get that credit for that. But we wanted to have time for any questions or any scenarios or anything that you're interested in, curious about, feedback, anything, any questions you might have.
We got a question on the chat.
Okay.
It says, how much time do you spend teaching how to play Minecraft versus creating and learning within Minecraft?
So the first year we did this, we spent several days doing lunch bunches. If you don't know how to play Minecraft, please come to this lunch bunch so that we can teach you the basics. We did the same thing the following year during COVID. If you don't know how to play, please come during lunch so that no class time is taken to teach them how to play. This year, the kids were really good about helping each other. So we had very few kids who did not know how to play, but the 1 or 2 was getting help in game, which is really more effective from their peers. So really not a whole lot of time at all was spent teaching them how to play Minecraft.
Are there other teachers in your grade, or is it you alone in 4th grade?
There are other teachers in my grade. I'm just responsible for Virginia Studies for the entire grade level.
So I've been working specifically with her on Virginia Studies projects. And then in the next week or 2, I'm actually expanding to another 4th grade teacher for science. We're going into solar systems and things like that. All right, nothing else?
Was the only way that you were assessing student learning was through their, I know you said Wixie, but the quill and, what is it called?
Not at all.
So,
I was doing quick checks, just formative quick checks.
and then, I'm sorry, within, I know you do tests too, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
within Minecraft, like, what else would you do to have them prove to you that they found George Washington or whatever it was, like?
So this year, because they were making museums, that was their proof to us. We were
Okay.
checking as they were going, and after class, we would take tours ourselves and, see if their information was correct. And I was able to then go in and say, oh, wait a second, everybody, there's this misunderstanding. And so it was a really good way for me to catch those misunderstandings, because some of them are really, they fly under the radar, even on just regular quick checks. But here it was, they had to figure out how to put it into words themselves. So it became very obvious very quickly who had it and who didn't. And then when we went into Flipgrid and had the students give their responses, what was important, what did you find, what was interesting to you? That was another really good indicator of actual understanding, or is there a misunderstanding here that I need to correct?
What were they putting into their museums?
So we had some really, really cool ones. We did Native American, and we had some kids, they actually built a powwow of NPCs. So they had NPCs and they put a powwow, and the NPCs in the powwow were discussing why they were doing what they were doing. And then in another room, it was it housing that they did? They covered their room in grass somehow and built these huge log houses and talked about what they were made out of, and they had NPCs outside of each one who discussed why it was this way and how there was, the fire was in the middle and everybody lived together. And then we had one room where they were comparing American Indians today and American Indians of the past. And so they did, this is what we used to live in, but we don't live in that anymore. This is what we live in now. And now we do this, and now we do this, and now we do this. So they were taking the content that's going to be tested, and they were finding a way to express it creatively. So those are just some examples of the things. That book, that journal, was part of a museum. That was one of the exhibits in their Jamestown. So we've had kids expand in ways that we could not even begin to imagine when we started this project.
You can program the non-playable characters to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's the Immersive Reader inside Minecraft, so it can read text-to-speech. But in general, it's just text. And then there's like external links, like we can link to a website straight from an NPC, or we can use the NPC to teleport them somewhere else or change the weather condition or something
So
like that.
in some cases, they've exported to our notes. And then the kids just go into our notes and they can use the Immersive Reader in Canvas, and in Canvas will just reread the notes.
Minecraft has Immersive Reader too, so it can read the signs and the NPCs. And we did make an effort to go in before they did their full gallery walk and correct misconceptions or just flat out incorrect stuff. We tried to correct all that before the whole class got to do their full museum tour. It was really cool to see. It's a lot of fun.
Did you take the Minecraft course before teaching it?
Mm-hmm. No, I just kind of jumped in and then worked very closely with Kevin. He does most of the building. I will say all day, I don't have the depth perception to do that kind of building. Mm-hmm. So I put in the content. So it is very, very necessary to find somebody, if you are not very strong with this kind of thing, who can do that part. And that is part of the reason that our partnership works so well, because we're each able to bring something to the table.
And then how do you ensure that the students don't ruin your world?
So in Minecraft, you have game controls and classroom controls. So like the majority of my worlds, I set them as immutable, so they can't destroy anything. And then areas where I want them to be able to build, I'll put allow blocks under it. Or I'll put barriers so they can't get out of certain areas. And I make a different world for each class. And then I have my original.
Cautionary tale, they will always find a way.
Yeah, always find a way. There's always a way through something.
So he takes very close notes on where things are located and how, the dimensions and such, so that if he has to go back in and rebuild it, it's not a difficult process.
Coordinates everywhere. So if somebody gets lost, or they get buried underground, or they're out in the middle of the ocean, I can just immediately teleport them back in.
Because that happens a lot,
I wonder
actually.
that because it's open world, right?
Yes.
So
It is, but we use like snippets of areas. So the worlds that I've constructed are a set area, so they can't go too far out of bounds. It's just void. Or there's a barrier block that blocks their passage. So like my first grade Jamestown world, they start out with ships in Christopher Newport. They can't go very far. There's just content. And then we'll teleport as a class to Jamestown. Or we'll teleport as a class to Weramacamico. So it's really, we kind of construct it so we try to not let them do things that we don't want them to do. Doesn't always work, but.
If you were doing this with older kids, would you have them do more of that construction?
Absolutely, yeah.
And the goal is by the end of the year for them to be doing more of the construction than they are now. It's just like anything else, you have to build them up to it. And that was one of the things we learned after our first year. We gave them the reins too quickly. And so we really did learn that you really have to baby step up to full control.
A lot of it comes to available time too. How much time do you have to get through all of this to actually see some sort of product?
Yours Your world is so cool.
Thank you. I built that one from scratch.
I have so many questions.
Don't push the button by the ironclads too many times.
And
So many buttons,
That makes
I've already
sense.
broken so many.
just do it once and wait a couple seconds and then.
So my ironclads, I have TNT that appear and fall into bedrock and explode.
Cool.
But I found if they push the button over and over again, it destroys the ships.
Yeah, that happened one time.
So there's a hole. So when you're in there, there's the hole on the right.
Yeah.
That's so they could hear it more audibly.
Ooh.
And then there's 2 holes out in the water, and that's where the TNT's falling in. And it summons it.
From a content area, just going back to the Civil War world, because it's my favorite too. What I love about that world is that we were actually able to incorporate primary sources into that world. So when you go to Richmond, the man who takes you on he's kind of placed every couple of feet or so, he was an actual reporter who was there at the burning of Richmond. And so I took some of the things that he said and added it into his dialogue. So some of what he is saying is actually what he said at the time that Richmond was burning. So this integration of technology and primary sources for me as a social studies teacher just makes my heart happy. So, and that was really the first time that we played a lot with that. So.
That would be a beautiful world to learn into.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a really cool field trip, really.
And that's what we were hoping for it to be. We said we can't take them everywhere, so let's do a virtual field trip.
Hyper technical question. Like, were you using a lot of the Java edition and then like pulling things in and converting to make this?
That one, I did almost all of it except for the NBCs in MC Edit.
That makes a
I did
lot
all
of
of
sense.
MC Edit, and then I put it into Java
Okay,
and then converted it.
convert it over.
Yeah. I don't think you have to do that with Amulet though.
Okay, we really need to explore it. We already emailed you. And but yeah, it's.
Are they in there in adventure mode?
So another question.
So I put them in a mode depending on what they want them to do.
Okay.
Like for Jamestown, they're in
This sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we're flying.
sometimes put in
through-
survival mode and want them to start that. But adventure mode is usually for Civil War too.
We went the opposite direction with Jamestown. My class that was doing it, like, we got there day one, they didn't build the wall, so they're focusing on everything else. And so we started like /killing them. We kept saying, respawn to the boat. Because they were like, you are under attack, you don't have a wall, you're not protected, so we are going to randomly.
So funny thing is that was when we first started talking, that was the first thing we talked about doing.
We were like, until this wall is up, you are gonna get randomly attacked by the elements and other, you know.
You guys are building the wall, you get out the flint and steel and start burning it down.
No, it was.
And then suddenly that wall got constructed real fast. Shocking.
I like the idea of just having 2 people moving on it. I've never done that.
It should be
They make a plan and they all go away, so everybody's like on the wall.
Yeah.
Right from the start,
Now,
but
part
love
of
the
the
idea
reason
like
though that
2 can and.
All right, I will see you guys at 5 then.
Right. It really kind of emphasizes the hardships.
Because we're really.
Another
So for the MC edit, that was for like the terrain, right? And then like when you wanted a boat.
So I imported it using MC Edit.
Okay, same thing.
It's not even that with the structure block.
Yeah, exactly, which is even more exciting. Yeah,
The
yeah,
other side of it is like,
It is an existing one, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
isn't it?
But no, I also wonder if
It's easier
now that the structure block works, like.
administration almost to take from there. And it's exciting for the kids.
Now that I can.
Oh, you mean trying to take
And they
Which
know.
world?
No, try to take